Dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. It's indeed a wonderful morning for me to be in such a non-political atmosphere. It's also wonderful to see people from across the globe, leaders in your own fields, diverse topics. I think the stage defines, and to be, for a change, the only political person in this gathering of people across the globe. It's wonderful, and I congratulate One Globe Forum, their 7th edition, for getting us all together and actually giving me an opportunity to be here as well. I'm sure I'm going to miss out on all the wonderful topics that you're going to be discussing. But yes, I've been told that one of the wonderful topics which are going to be discussed on this forum is about empowering women and their contribution towards the economy of a country, or economic empowerment, and the role that women can play. I think that's a wonderful topic, because this is probably the only gathering where you get to see so many women. Normally in India, at 9:30 in the morning, if I go for any program, believe me, there might just be 4 or 5 women, otherwise the room will be full of men. And that's the reality of my country, where women are yet to contribute their full potential towards nation building. In the Constitution, it gives us equal rights, but in our country, and maybe in a lot of countries, we are far from getting what is our due. And it's also a fact that if women were to contribute and be given equality, not only would the GDPs of globally, the GDP would improve, but even the economies of every country would have drastic improvement if women were allowed to be equal in their workforce and be given equal opportunities. We have a lot to learn from many countries, and I'm sure that when this topic comes up, a lot of good points will come out, which I hope I may get to hear about them as well. We are trying what we can in our own way, and I think in our country, everybody needs to contribute to ensure gender equality, because we still come from a nation where there is a bias in the mindset, and this mindset really needs to be improved from each home in India. We're a country where every 4 minutes a woman is molested, every 12 minutes probably one is kidnapped, every 15 minutes one is raped, and actually every 1 hour there's a dowry death, because for the greed of dowry, the young girl's life is snuffed out. So when you have these kind of statistics where we still have girls who are not as educated as their male counterparts, but in spite of all these challenges where a girl is yet has to fight a battle even to take birth, where millions of lives are snuffed out before they can take their first breath. And even after taking birth, it's a challenge to get equal opportunities as your male counterparts, to have equal opportunities in education, in healthcare, even food in the rural areas. When you've got a whole load of kids, it's usually the main child which gets more food, because he's going to grow up and earn for the family. So despite these challenges, it gives me great pleasure when I see women in leadership roles, because I realize in our country how tough it is to break the bias and actually get out there and move ahead and actually lead. I had the wonderful opportunity just last evening for this under 19 Khelo India sports which were taking place, and I had the entire contingent of Punjab come and meet me in my office, and it was so wonderful to see these 12 and 13-year-old girls who had won medals. They came from rural areas of my state, where I never thought that parents would even let them out and go study in the next village school, because that's often what they tell me, that build us a school in our village itself, because we don't want to send her to the next village, it's not safe. But there are certain parents who are not only just letting them get out of the village, they're sending them out into the cities and making them compete with girls across other states. And these girls are the ones which are actually rising and winning laurels, not just for their family, but even for the state, and winning gold medals. There were like dozens of them. And it made me feel so good and feel so proud that rural India is changing, not just the cities. Yes, it's also a fact that despite all odds, when I go across the state or even across India, and we go to the education institutions where we're often called to honor the kids who have done well, you'll be surprised. It's 70% of the people to get top marks or to get all the medals and all are usually girls in education now. And despite all that, they do not come into the leadership roles of whether it's in the business houses or whether it's in the workforce. And So the girls are trying, and I'm sure the road ahead is going to be good. The government is committed. We have a prime minister now who's committed towards women empowerment. I'm happy to say that for the first time in 2015, we allowed women to come into combat roles in Air Force and pilots and in the armed forces as well. There have been many things which have been started by the government, be it the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, which is to change the mindset that let her study and let her move ahead, as well as the Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana, where you save a little bit for the girl child, which you get when the time she's 18. There's a considerable amount which she can then use for her education. So many schemes like that. I contribute in my own humble way with Nanni Cha, like Harjeev mentioned, which was started 10 years ago, which is an NGO I started before I got into this role, which gives me less time for the NGO, which was actually to change the mindset of people because I'm a mother of 2 daughters, and I realized the bias when I had my second daughter, and people thought, oh, she doesn't have a son. And I thought, what's your problem? And we're very happy about having another daughter. I realized how deep-rooted the problem was. If in families like mine, people still thought like that, what must my poor sisters be going through? So that's why I decided, let's start a movement and join people together. And I had to find something which would interest the men folk as well, because when you talked about female feticide, and when you talked about let's fight against dowry, the women were all very interested because usually they're at the receiving end, but the men looked thoroughly bored with the topic. So I had to come up with something which would interest the men as well. And I decided that let's talk about save the girl child and save the environment. Environment, because if it's a little girl who grows up to give birth with which humanity carries on, then it's the little sapling that grows on Mother Earth which gives us this shade. And not just the shade, it's the oxygen with that after taking birth with which you can stay alive. So when I talked about Mother Earth and the little girl child, and I talked about let's plant as many saplings so that Mother Earth can give back to us so that we can lead a healthier, happier life. And to my rural brothers, it would be that, if we keep environment healthy, that's how your crops will be healthy, and that's why you won't get rainfall at the wrong time and drought at the wrong time, so you'll earn your money well. And that appealed to the men. So while they helped me in planting the saplings, and that in a way pushed through that, okay, let's fight against dowry so that the girl child is not considered a burden because of the dowry that will be needed when you have to marry her off. So in a way, the mindset started changing a little bit. People became involved in the movement, and I'm happy to say that my Punjab, my state, which had one of the worst sex ratios, it's still pretty bad, but there has been an improvement in the last 10 years, and we're no longer the worst in the country, but we're on our way towards improving. So there's a long way to go. I mean, I don't think we deserve a clap because there really is a lot of work that we need to do. And we have certain rituals which have been traditionally sent down, things like dowry, which I think is really an evil which needs to be eliminated from society. So we all contribute our bit, but I think the biggest contribution towards women empowerment that anybody can make across the globe, not just in our country, is to do their little bit. And no matter how poor, how uneducated, or how rich and how well off you are, there's always something that you can do for another woman who's more needy. I often tell people that whether you're a doctor or a teacher or a lawyer, you can take out 1 hour in the week to help one of those poor women who cannot afford a lawyer, cannot afford a doctor, that poor girl child who can't afford the education, give her some tuition. If you're just a mere housewife, I'm sure there's a household helps daughter who needs some books or who needs some health care. There's something each one of us can do. You just need to look within and make the effort to do it. And if each one of us made that little bit of effort, look at the quantum difference we would make and scale together. So I think it all boils down to that. A lot of you are doing a lot of good work, but I would just appeal to this wonderful gathering over here that let's work together to empower women, especially in those societies which are not as developed as many of you coming here. Probably they come from very well-developed economies and societies where women equality and gender equality is a reality. But let's work together to change the mindset and help those economies also to catch up so that there's a level playing field across the globe, and countries like India may also progress. And, well, I'm always there to root for women empowerment and to cheer you all on. So while I thank you for having me here this morning, I would have loved to stay and listen to what all you have to say, enjoy some good nashta and lunch and with Harjeev and his wonderful people that he has met here, which I'm sure would have been very enlightening for me to get to know you all better. And I hope I get this occasion again. I congratulate you once again on this 7th forum that you're having, and may this grow, and let's replace Davos in the years to come. Thank you so much.